Hey everybody. Today I just kind of wanted to go over some family history that I found, uh, and show off a few other things that I came across that I don't think I've showed off yet. Things that I am unboxing, unpacking. Nice little acoustic guitar here. Good image on it. It says home on the range. Nice little Western design on the bottom of it. Looks like one of the cables is almost looks like they was strung a little off on the top there, so definitely could use a tightening to it. But yeah, this is an interesting little guitar that my dad picked up from somewhere, I'm assuming. But I used to play lead guitar, but it's been a really long time. I was back in high school. But I definitely want to play around with it again. Let's see here. Got a little Batman the animated series, the Joker car with the Joker head on it. Some things that I just came across in a little box. I don't know what these are or where they came from. They're Star Wars toys. They almost look like they're on a Pez dispenser type mount, but I don't think so. I think they're supposed to be like something for a drink or something like that. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Doesn't show where they came from, if it was like Taco Bell or something like that. And there's a Yoda one. Anybody knows what these are? Let me know. Curious. I have those three at least. And I came across some stuff. This was kind of, we used to have an international. We were the first business in our village here. My grandpa and some others built the first implement place, and it was an international harvester uh, supplier. Then eventually we added on Cub Cadet. We bought in with them, and we had a old friend that we gave designed a whole back room in our back shop for him to do TV and radio repair. And then eventually we bought into the True Value franchise. But I don't know if this would actually sell to someone that collects advertising or not, but just the International Harvester pencil. It's got Bucky Badger in his farm overalls on the top. The eraser's old and dried up, but just to have that Bucky Badger International Harvester image, I would love to have that in a bigger on a sheet or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. I found this New Testament Douay version, Army and Navy edition, and it's in really good condition. And it's got parts that are open and stuff, but it was my grandfather's from World War I, and I'm sure he carried it with him a lot, and pages are sewing a little bit off, but they're still holding together. And I looked them up online, and these sell for $30 to $50. I just can't decide. Do I want to let this go because that's a nice chunk of money? But yet I know my grandpa carried this with him for the longest time, so I think the sentiment wins over the cash value, and I think I'm gonna keep that in my collection. I also have his military stitch up pouch with the needle and the strings and stuff in case they got cut or shot or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think I can let it go. I've been trying to decide for since I found it. This I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna kind of read it over. I was thinking about maybe reading some of the course out loud. Page that's dog-eared. Dang it. Other than that, all these books are in really good condition from the Dale Carnegie Institute. Learn how to be a power speaker, power seller, power whatever. And they got lots of great information in here for from the Dale Carnegie Institute. So I'm thinking about letting these go, sell these because I don't really have a purpose for those myself. So those will probably go in the get rid of pile. I finally see what the little shithead. The cat was not happy at 5 o'clock this morning. He wanted to go outside. But I ain't getting up and letting him go outside at 5 in the morning, and I gotta sit here waiting for him before I can go back to bed. But I see he dumped over my little notepad dispenser. I thought for sure it was the Thor statue that he knocked down, the way it sounded bouncing off the floor. Such a little shit. This thing I showed off before, it's an advertising thing with a calculation disc on the back. How to shoot with a bow and arrow. This old advertising. Ah, keep those in there. Some old stamps and stuff. Yeah, that's just some old advertising stuff. That'll probably go in the sell pile because that stuff does usually go pretty decent. This one's beat up and apparently got torn and then taped back together. But I got a lot of postcards from my father to my grandparents, my father's friends to him. Very interesting ones. I didn't realize kids were as vulgar as they were back then. There's Niagara Falls. I mean, these old postcards, just the way they painted these scenes and did them, they're just so wonderful. I love the colorization and stuff to them. But the main thing that I'm going to be talking about today is Valley Forge, Boy Scouts of America. Had a huge get together there. They also went to Washington. They went to Niagara Falls. Uh, they went to like five. I think I have it written down in here somewhere. They went to like five different places. But my father was one of two members. Him and Jack Bauer were, and not the Jack Bauer from '48, but they were two members, Boy Scouts, that were picked to go on this retreat. And I thought it was really interesting. So that's why I wanted to show some stuff off here from, because my dad thankfully kept all this stuff. And I was able to grab this before my family threw this stuff out. Here's a little thing about the Washington Monument, old pamphlet from back then. One of their stops on their big Boy Scouts of America thing, but it was a really interesting event once we get to certain things. Here's the Jamboree Scouts. Here is Philadelphia. Yeah, I'll show the main points of historical interest in that area. I know we live in a world now where we can't have nothing of history out there. I mean, everybody that was part of history was bad. So, God forbid, we gotta destroy every statue and every monument, everything that represents anything that might have some of our history in our past. But you know what? I don't care what these people think. I think they need to pull their heads out of their ass and realize that history ain't built on handshakes and hugs. History is built on war and it sucks, and a lot of great, wonderful people died because of it, fighting for the causes back then of the rich that wanted to take control of certain things. And yes, we had to have our young kids go to war to defend those things and protect those things. And every side of war, every entrant has their own beliefs, and everybody feels they're right when in reality nobody's really right. We should just all sit down, have a drink, and get together. Just realize we're very lucky to be on this beautiful marble that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in space, and it hasn't went off course yet. We haven't burned up or froze to death yet, so we could accomplish so much more if we could just join together and focus on peace and not war. But hey, history is not built on peace, sadly. But here's a visiting Canada thing. Uh, don't obstruct view, extract from United States tariff regulations of special interest to tourists. So back then there was a bunch of tariff issues and things. So it's like you look down on history, it's present history, and it's like if you actually look back far enough in history, you'll notice that a lot of things happening now happened many, many years ago. And that's a reason why people are doing certain things also. And it may be good or bad, but I mean, everybody's got their own opinions of change, and you just got to work together, try and find an equal platform that we can all agree on. But this is a really cool pamphlet from Niagara Falls. It's just, I like all this old material. And again, this is stuff I know I could sell easily for probably a decent price. This was a huge event for my father, so I'm not going to let this stuff go either. I want to keep all this for my own memories. We got the story of the Valley Forge Boy Scout Jamboree from June 24th to July 10th, 1950. Is all your information for the Jamboree. Boy Scout logo there. Got some Canadian 4-cent stamps still on the edge, the corner cut. Dad loved collecting stamps. National Council Boy Scouts of America. This certificate, when validated by the National Council, certifies that Forrest Kleinon's Badger level local council member. Got all this stuff on there for the jamboree. And we got there's another cool postcard of the old all the old cars around an old shop. This is the Boy Scouts of America souvenir map. It has all the areas pinpointed and laid out throughout it. All kinds of Valley Forge information. That was so cool. Well, they got that part of the map laid out. And the inside just basically your normal map area. But I thought that was really cool. But it's like 1950. Long, long time ago. I hate maps. Never pulled them back up right. Goes this way first, and then we go across. Remember how you showed it off? That's how it goes. All right. So my parents always kept newspaper clippings. Uh, like, dear friend at home, it's quite a place. They say George Washington slept here. Well, if he did, he sure didn't have 46,999 noisy scouts as members of his Continental Army of $10,000 or 10,000. Maybe it was just so cold the sound froze and then all thawed out in the spring. Whoop, that's a Paul Bunyan yarn. It's like this was. I should read the whole thing. It was written by my father and Jack, basically back to everybody at here in our village and back in Wisconsin. But as you already noted, the envelope is a first day cover and it carries the first Boy Scout commemorative stamp ever issued. You will note the day of mailing is the opening day of the Great Jamboree. Tonight we will all be together for the big send off. Then on July 2nd, the big convocation. Then on the 4th, the great Independence Day observance in this one of the nation's most historic and revered shrines. Our campsite has very little shade. In fact, we can look in most any direction and note the highest tree to be just the height of a blade of grass. Believe me, the big troop dining flies tents will come in handy when the old sun really works. We are one of the few contingents to have such a fine shelter. The trip over was wonderful. There's a lot to tell you when we return. It will be up to you to see that every scout has a chance to tell his story, and he will have a big one to every possible community group anywhere around his home territory. If there is any chance for you to visit us at the Jamboree, we want you to do it. But if you cannot, try to be on the deck in welcome the in welcome or to welcome the boys when the special train arrives home. We expect to pull in to West Bend about 1 p.m. or it just goes on and on about their homecoming and all that. But it was kind of cool because there's uh, multiple things that are written up to the families back home, and my dad was a big part of it. So Yeah, Scouts group in the East, Badger Council contingent joins 48,000 other youths at the Jamboree. Uh, Here we got, and this is my favorite part. I was hoping that I could find a signature that Dad got. I know how Dad was. He does have a signature book with a bunch of signatures and stuff, but I haven't seen anything yet that shows Dwight's signature. But you get to see Dwight D. Eisenhower sat there and actually talked to the Boy Scouts about the Korea action uh, going on. General Dwight D. Eisenhower told 47,000 Boy Scouts at their National Jamboree Tuesday night that the United States' decision to assist South Korea in resisting outrageous invasion was inescapable. Our decision must be carried to its conclusion by whatever means are necessary, he declared. The end is difficult to see, but for us in Valley Forge, where every field and hill and stream reminds us of George Washington, how can we doubt eventual success if we meet these issues firmly? The general who commanded Allied forces in Europe during World War II pointed out that American failure to aid South Korea would be another kind of Munich, which all the disastrous consequences that followed in the wake of the fatal error 12 years ago. It goes on and on about the past and present decisions we made and all that stuff, and I thought it was really cool. He did. I suppose you'll learn that as I go through some of these. Uh, Tuesday, Mr. Truman Friday night showed some signs of the tension he is under. He seemed to have lost a little of his bounce and was more subdued than usual at Valley Ford, where he addressed Boy Scouts assembled for their second national jamboree. Mr. Truman interrupted his speech to bawl out an assemblage of news photographers whose flashbulbs were popping almost constantly in his face. I liked him. I just. Uh, the president, who is known for his good natured patience with photographers, told the lensmen in no uncertain terms to suspend their picture taking until he finished speaking. The president cut to the minimum any extra activities in connection with his trip to Valley Forge, although several hundred persons gathered at a Philadelphia station where his train paused to switch crews. He did not make the platform appearance they obviously hoped for, nor did he stop to chat with any of the thousands of scouts who greeted him at Valley Forge. He was going through a bunch of issues during this period. Uh, Variety of different things in here mention what he things he was having problems with and stuff. But yeah, it was a very historic moment. Here you got the Boy Scouts drum and bugle corps. Then when they were in the Washington area, uh, it's like Boy Scouts just they had groups from all over. Uh, let's see. Let her rip. Three little words which made history in World War II provided the chief campfire conversation piece Monday at the Boy Scouts' Second National Jamboree. General Dwight D. Eisenhower spoke those words in starting the Channel invasion of Nazi held Europe on June 6, 1944. Repeat that order. The former Allied Supreme Commander will repeat that order Tuesday night touch off fireworks display. Yeah, yeah. We go on to that any further. Here's our newspaper from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, showing the Badger Council Scouts. Yeah, I thought this was kind of cool. They have a souvenir telegram, and the telegram's all written out for you. So all the scouts had to do was sign it and put the address on it and send it out. But it's basically says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but arrived safely. Would like to hear from you, love. Arrived safe and sound, but tired, can hardly wait for tomorrow when things really begin. Would be happy to hear from you by telegraph. It's exciting to see the place I have heard so much about. Valley Forge is both solemn and beautiful. Miss you lots. It goes on and on, but it's funny how they had a pre-written telegraph for the scouts. If they wanted to send it back, they couldn't think of their own thing to say. And I know this is the times. I know times have changed, and I'm probably going to say some things wrong here, but here's four scouts that mohawked their heads to represent. Yes, it was some type of representation towards the Native Americans. Uh, yeah, American boys. I don't know why it's Luckle. Truman informs youth. I think it's supposed to say Lucky instead of Luckle. But thousands of scouts hear president in address at Jamboree, and that gets more into the issues he had during that week. Uh, Here's another uh, thing about scouts begin big jamboree and Truman to speak. There's a 70-year-old scoutmaster there helping out. Let's see. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The Boy Scouts of America opened their mammoth national jamboree Friday in the valley, where George Washington's troops fought cold and hunger that freedom might be born on this continent. President Truman, speaking on these historic grounds Friday night, is expected to tell the scouts and their leaders that the fight for liberty continues today. The speech will be broadcast by yeah, we don't need to know that. Nearly 50,000 attending this first national jamboree since 1937 were to greet the president on his arrival by train from Washington. So it's like 37, 47, 50, 13 years between the two jamborees. I got this Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park literature. Some more historical stuff that Dad kept track of. We got Camp Shaganapi Badger Council uh, patch. President takes a 2-day cruise. Aboard escort destroyer William S. Wood. President Truman, obviously tired by the strain of a mounting international crisis, left Philadelphia aboard the presidential yacht Williamsburg Saturday for a leisurely 2-day cruise to Washington, for the first time since his history-making decision to give all-out aid to the Korean Republic. Yeah, don't know why I'm showing that. And then here's a 1950 Valley Forge sticker. Here, Jack Bauer and Forrest Kleinantz are members of the Boy Scout Jamboree, which will leave in a group on Monday, June 26th for Valley Forge, New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and Niagara Falls. Those are all the places. The Boy Scout group will meet on June 28th or 23rd at Lakeside Park, Fond du Lac, and will leave from there in a group on Monday. There we got just to show. I have a ton of pictures. I didn't want to go through all those, but it's like here's a Nova Scotia group. The Boy Scouts, they had signs for every type of state, country, town, whatever that the Boy Scouts came from. It was very interesting. And then here's some more fun postcard. They had these old postcard books back in the day. Nicely painted artwork up. These are all still connected. That one's really weird. General Osa Pump no Tox to, Osa Pump no Feru. It looks like a orangutan in bed, but not sure. I went to Niagara Falls. I was really young, so. And then I know my parents, when they got married, went back to Niagara Falls for like a honeymoon or something like that. Don't want that. Here's to a real pal. This is sent to my dad from my grandpa. Also has lots of fun cartoony style postcards. It's a hail, hail, the gang's all here and having a lot of old fashioned fun. We're having more fun than a barrel of monkeys. But yeah, these are neat from back in the day. I can't believe they don't do these anymore. Okay, this is when my actually it looks like it came from the Air Force Base from one of my dad's friends, probably to my grandpa, and then my grandpa sent it back to my dad. So those are things they had to do back then sometimes. Couple more awesome Niagara Fall. I love when the lights are on there. This one was to dad from my dad to my aunt, also my godmother. Other ones from my grandfather, great grandfather, sorry. Here's the following letter was recently received by Miss Harold C. Johnson, whose son Norman has been reported as missing since August 1950 in the fighting in Korea. It is hoped that he might be found a prisoner of war as the war there progresses and more prisoners are liberated. Headquarters 3 Engineer Combat Battalion, 24th Infantry Division, Miss Harold C. Johnson, Campbellsport, Wisconsin. Dear Miss Johnson, I have been planning to write you for some time regarding your beloved son Norman, but have delayed in the forlorn hope. There's an image of him, friend of the family. I can't remember. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that was relation. Friend of our family. Uh, More definite information might turn up. Son was recommended to me as my Jeep driver soon after we arrived in Korea as one of the best soldiers in the battalion. Particularly in our early days in Korea, everyone was constantly in danger. Corporal Johnson was always cool and cheerful under the most trying conditions. It was a pleasure to be associated with him. During early August, this unit was put in the line to defend a part of the Nakpong River. On that night, on the night of August 10th, I sent a large patrol across the river. It was so important that I decided to accompany it part of the way myself, although I told Corporal Johnson to stay with the Jeep behind our own lines. I found him in the darkness in my boat and took him along when he refused to go back. On our return, we were cut off from our boat and our boatman was killed. On Corporal Johnson's suggestion, we decided to swim the river. When I last saw him, he was making good progress. He was not found, however, even after a thorough search of the river line. That night, for several days, since we were under heavy fire, it is possible he was either killed or was wounded and captured by the enemy along the far shore. His loss was felt deeply by all in this battalion since he was well liked and respected. It choked me up a little bit. And we were always good friends with the Johnsons. They're very good family. I was personally concerned because I had learned to depend on him and was the last to see him swimming across the Naktong River. You should be very proud, for your son was a fine soldier in every way. He did everything he could to help win this war. We hope that he is still alive and will be found. If any further information is disclosed relative to his current status, I will promptly notify you. So that's from his lieutenant colonel. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. Hope he didn't suffer if he was found. I don't know if he was in camp. I'd have to find out more information about that. All right. Also, back in my father's childhood, my grandfather's childhood, and stuff, they put a lot of care into flyers and stuff back then. Today's stuff is just random crap that people print out. But this is just for a homecoming football game for the high school. And they have this awesome looking uh, thing that they put out, flyer that they put out. And this night, Camel Sport beat Kewaskum 42-28. And then inside with Coca-Cola advertisement, they also have football symbols that the referees use, hand symbols, so you can understand things. They got the teams listed in there and stuff, and then a little advertising page for some places that are not around anymore. Just in case I get cut off, I see my storage needs to be freeing up some space, so I'm going to try and move it along here. This is a really cool postcard from Minnesota, Paul Bunyan style. Uh, we got Valley Forge Park, a historic record and guidebook. It's got all kinds of information about Valley Forge. Here's Washington at Valley Forge, 1977 or 1777 to 1778. There you can see how cold and miserable they had it. The conditions were that they were dealing with while they were in battle. Uh, Here is a overview image from a plane of all the scouts, and they're just that whole area. Just you can see tons of different encampments and stuff where the scouts were hanging out. Hope I can finish these last few things off before that dies off. I got this Wisconsin Lumber Company Boy Scouts calendar from back in the day, and yeah, tons of images of the scouts. And then I'm not going to go through each image. Like I said, I have a feeling I'm going to lose it, but it's cool that way. They also have a thing on how to make some birdhouses and stuff on the back. And then that one was from 1952. This is also from 1952, where they went to a smaller version with just a little calendar on there. Not much to it, but some information on Hanson signals and stuff like that. And then the last couple things, or the last two things that I have here that I found was from Walter Lantz cartoons. We got Woody Woodpecker. Yeah, the sheet music for Woody Woodpecker, and then some extra chorus music on the back there. And the last one I'm going to show off is Now is the Hour Maori Farewell Song by Bing Crosby. You can do it. There's the sheet music for it. More information on the back. But yeah, I thought that was some fun, interesting stuff. Hopefully that interests other people. I really like seeing the history of my father and stuff and grandfather, and apparently I'm the only family member that cares enough to try and keep their history relative and around. That the rest of my other four siblings decided to sell off his house and could have bought it for a lower price, but they wouldn't let me. And now the last piece of land that our family ever owned, we were the first ones to build in this town. Now we have nothing left, thanks to my siblings that I don't understand why they would have done that. All about the greed, all about putting money in their pocket, I guess. More important to them than making your siblings happy and keeping your family name around. But oh well, that's it for this round of unpacking my life. Sorry, I got choked up a little bit. Sucks hearing about kids going through the stuff they went through in war. So, but yeah, keep following under the color of MS. Rate, review, subscribe. Give us those likes. Leave a comment. I'll comment back. And we'll be back with more to you soon. Thanks.